The moment the metal cuffs snapped shut around the wrists of a man still wearing a black judicial robe, everything changed. And no one at that quiet roadside gas station in Brookvale would ever forget what they saw. A respected federal judge, a man who had spent years upholding the law, now stood frozen beside a fuel pump while a police officer treated him like a street criminal. People watched. Phones came out. And in that heavy silence, one question hung in the air. How did it come to this? Before we go any further, tell me, where are you watching from right now? And if you enjoy powerful, real stories like this, take a second to subscribe. You don't want to miss what happens next. It started as a normal late afternoon. Judge Emanuel Rowe had just left the courthouse. His day had been long, full of serious cases, but he carried himself with calm dignity as always. He did not bother to change out of his robe. He often didn't. To him, it was not just clothing. It was a symbol of responsibility, of fairness. He drove his dark blue sedan down a quiet road and pulled into a gas station just outside town. The place was simple. A few pumps, a small shop. Nothing unusual. He stepped out of the car, still in full robe, and began to fill his tank. That's when the patrol car rolled in. Officer Grant Halvorsen had been on duty for 6 hours already. He was known around the area for being strict, too strict, some people said. He noticed things others ignored, and sometimes he saw problems where there were none. He slowed his car as he passed the pumps. Then he saw the robe. He frowned. From a distance, it didn't look official to him. It looked strange, out of place, suspicious. He parked, watched. Something about the scene bothered him. A black man in a long robe, standing at a gas station alone. In Halvorsen's mind, it didn't add up. He stepped out of the car and walked over. "Hey," he called out sharply. Judge Rowe turned his head calmly. "Yes, officer." Halvorsen looked him up and down slowly. His eyes stopped at the robe. "What is that supposed to be?" he asked. Rowe blinked once, confused but composed. "I beg your pardon." "That outfit," Halvorsen said, voice tightening. "You filming something? Some kind of costume act?" There was a pause. People nearby began to notice. Rowe straightened slightly. "This is not a costume. I am a federal judge. I've just come from court." Halvorsen let out a short, cold laugh. "Yeah, right," he said. "And I'm the president." Rowe felt something shift in the air. This was no longer simple confusion. "I can show you identification," Rowe said calmly. But Halvorsen shook his head. "No sudden moves," he snapped. "Keep your hands where I can see them." The tone had changed. Now it was sharp, aggressive, unnecessary. A woman near pump 3 slowly stopped fueling her car, watching closely. Rowe raised his hand slightly, keeping his voice steady. "Officer, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." "Turn around," Halvorsen interrupted. The words hit hard. "What?" Rowe asked quietly. "You heard me," Halvorsen said. "Turn around." Now, the silence grew thicker. Rowe hesitated, but only for a moment. He turned. People were fully watching now. Phones were out. Halvorsen stepped forward and grabbed Rowe's wrists. The judge did not resist. He did not raise his voice. But his eyes, calm just seconds ago, now held something deeper. Something hurt. The cuffs clicked. Loud. Final. A man in a robe. Handcuffed. At a gas station. "Officer," Rowe said slowly, "this is a mistake." Halvorsen leaned in slightly, his voice low but filled with edge. "Funny," he said, "because where I'm standing, this looks like a guy dressed up trying to play something he's not." There it was. Not just doubt. Disbelief. The kind that cuts deeper than words. "I suggest you verify my identity," Rowe said firmly now. But Halvorsen ignored him. Instead, he reached for his radio. "I've got a situation," he said. "Possible impersonation. Need backup." The word hung in the air. Impersonation. As if everything Rowe had worked for was just pretend. A young man standing nearby shook his head quietly. He whispered to his friend, "That's a judge. I've seen him before." But no one stepped forward. Not yet. Halvorsen began to search Rowe roughly. "You people think you can just walk around wearing anything," he muttered under his breath, just loud enough. Rowe heard it. And this time, something in him reacted. "You people," he repeated quietly. Halvorsen didn't answer. Instead, he tightened his grip. The tension was no longer hidden. It was clear. It was real. And it was about more than just a robe. Sirens could be heard in the distance now. Backup was coming. And with every second that passed, more eyes gathered. More cameras recorded. What started as a quiet stop for fuel was turning into something much bigger. Something no one could stop now. Judge Emmanuel Rowe stood there, hands bound, dignity tested, as the world around him slowly realized. This was not just a mistake. This was something deeper, and it was about to explode. The sound of the approaching sirens cut through the heavy air like a warning. What had started as one officer's suspicion was now turning into a full scene. Lights flashing, people gathering, cameras recording from every angle. And in the center of it all stood Judge Emmanuel Rowe, still in his robe, still in handcuffs, still treated like he didn't belong in his own position. The first backup car pulled in fast. Then another. 2 more officers stepped out, Officer Lyle Benton and Officer Nora Keats. They took one look at the scene. A calm, well-dressed man in a judicial robe, hands cuffed behind his back, surrounded by silent witnesses. Benton frowned immediately. "What's going on here?" he asked, walking toward Halvorsen. Halvorsen didn't hesitate. "Got a possible impersonator," he said. "Claims he's a federal judge." Keats glanced at Rowe. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not with suspicion, but with confusion. "He doesn't look like he's causing trouble," she said carefully. Halvorsen's jaw tightened. "That's the point. These guys never do at first." There it was again. That tone. That quiet assumption. Rowe stood still, listening. "I've already told you," he said, voice controlled but firm. "I am Judge Emmanuel Rowe. My identification is in my inside pocket." Halvorsen turned sharply. "I told you not to move." "I haven't moved," Rowe replied. The tension between them grew sharper. Benton stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Grant, maybe we should just check his ID." Halvorsen shot him a look. "You think I didn't think of that? Then why haven't you done it?" Benton asked. For a split second, Halvorsen said nothing. And that silence spoke loudly. A small crowd had formed now. Some whispered. Others recorded openly. One older man stepped forward slightly, his voice uncertain. I think I've seen him in court before," he said, pointing toward Rowe. Halvorsen turned his head slowly. "Stay out of this," he snapped. The man stepped back immediately. Keats crossed her arms. "Sir, with all due respect, this doesn't look like impersonation. This looks like..." "Like what?" Halvorsen cut in. She hesitated, then said it anyway. "Like a misunderstanding." Halvorsen let out a dry laugh. "You're new, right?" Keats didn't respond. Rowe spoke again, this time louder so everyone could hear. "Officer, you are making a serious error. I have served this system with integrity for over 15 years. I demand that you verify my identity immediately." The words carried weight. People in the crowd nodded. Phones lifted higher. But Halvorsen didn't back down. Instead, he stepped closer to Rowe, his voice low and sharp. "You demand," he said. "You don't get to demand anything right now." Rowe held his gaze. "I do when my rights are being violated." The air snapped. Benton stepped in quickly. Okay, that's enough. Let's just check his ID and clear this up. Without waiting for approval, Benton carefully reached into Rowe's inner pocket. Halvorsen watched closely, but didn't stop him. Benton pulled out a leather wallet, opened it, paused. His expression changed instantly. He looked at the badge, then at the ID card, then back at Rowe, and everything went quiet. "What is it?" Keats asked. Benton didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly turned the ID toward her. Her eyes widened. "Oh," she whispered. Now Halvorsen stepped forward. "What?" he demanded. Benton finally spoke. "It's real," he said. Two simple words, but they hit like a hammer. Halvorsen's face hardened. He took the ID himself, staring at it. Judge Emanuel Rowe, Federal District Court, official seal. No doubt, no confusion, no costume, just truth. The crowd murmured louder now. Some people shook their heads. Others whispered things that couldn't be unheard. Halvorsen looked back at Rowe. For the first time, there was a crack in his confidence. But it didn't turn into apology. Not yet. Instead, he said, "Anyone can fake an ID." Benton blinked. "Come on, Grant. I'm serious," Halvorsen insisted. "We need to verify through dispatch." Keats shook her head slightly, disbelief showing on her face. "You're pushing this too far." But Halvorsen had already grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, I need verification on a federal judge. Name, Emanuel Rowe." There was a pause. The entire gas station seemed to hold its breath. Seconds passed. Then the radio crackled back. "Confirmed," the voice said. "Judge Emanuel Rowe, Federal District Court, fully active." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Now there was no excuse left. No doubt. No confusion. Only one truth remained. A federal judge had been handcuffed in public for no reason. Every eye turned to Halvorsen. Waiting. Watching. Recording. This was the moment where everything could change. Rowe spoke again, his voice calm, but now carrying undeniable authority. "Remove the cuffs." No anger, no shouting, just a command. Halvorsen didn't move. For a second, it looked like he might refuse, but Benton stepped forward, reaching for the cuffs. "I've got it," he said quietly. The metal clicked again, this time opening. Rowe slowly brought his hands forward. Red marks circled his wrists. Clear, painful, visible to everyone. Keats stepped back, shaking her head softly. "This should never have happened," she muttered. But the damage was already done. Rowe adjusted his robe carefully, straightened it, lifted his chin, and then he looked directly at Halvorsen. No fear, no anger, just something far more powerful. Disappointment. "You didn't see a judge," Rowe said quietly. "You saw what you wanted to see." Halvorsen said nothing. He couldn't, because deep down he knew. That was true. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because someone in that crowd had captured everything. Every word. Every second. And within minutes, it was already spreading. What happened at that gas station was no longer just a local mistake. It was about to become something much bigger. Something that would shake careers, expose truth, and force the entire system to answer one painful question. What happens when the law fails the very people who uphold it? The video hit the internet before the officers even left the gas station. At first, it was just one clip, shaky, recorded from a phone near Pump 3. You could see the robe, the cuffs. The moment the officer laughed and called it a costume, you could hear the words, "you people." And then, the final confirmation over the radio that changed everything. Within minutes, it spread. Group chats, local pages, Then national feeds. People replayed the same moment again and again. The second the cuffs clicked around Judge Emmanuel Rowe's wrists. The second his voice stayed calm while everything around him lost control. By the time the officers were getting back into their cars, the story was already moving faster than they could understand. Back at the station, things felt different. Phones were buzzing nonstop. Screens lit up with messages. "Have you seen this? Is this real? Tell me that's not one of ours." Inside his office, Captain Elias Vorn stood frozen in front of his monitor. He watched the video once, then again, then a third time. Each replay made it worse. He saw Halvorson's posture, the way he approached, the tone, the words. There was no confusion anymore. No benefit of doubt. This was bad. Very bad. He picked up his phone immediately. "Get Halvorson in here. Now." Back at the gas station, Halvorson sat in his patrol car, staring straight ahead. Benton stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching him. "You should have ended it when you saw the ID," Benton said quietly. Halvorson didn't respond. "You felt it too," Benton continued. "From the start, something was off. But you kept pushing. Still nothing." Finally, Halvorson spoke. "I was doing my job." Benton shook his head slowly. "No, you went past that." Halvorson turned slightly, his voice lower now, defensive. He didn't look right. There it was. Simple, clear, and heavy. Benton let out a slow breath. "That's the problem." Before Halvorson could respond, his radio came alive. "Officer Halvorson, report back to the station immediately." The tone was not normal. It was firm, direct, serious. Halvorson's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He knew. Something had shifted, something bigger than a simple incident. Back at the courthouse, Judge Rowe had already returned to his office. He stood alone for a moment, staring at his reflection in the glass. The robe was still on. But now, it felt different. He slowly rolled his sleeves up, revealing the marks left behind by the cuffs. Deep, red, unmistakable. A quiet knock came at the door. "Come in," he said. A court clerk stepped inside, holding a tablet. "Sir, you need to see this." Rao took it, watched the video, said nothing. But his face changed. Not with shock, not with anger, but with something deeper. Resolve. He handed the tablet back calmly. "Contact legal counsel," he said, "and prepare a formal report." The clerk nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Honor." As she left, Rowe looked down at his hands again. This time his voice came out softer. "But this won't just be a report." And he meant it. Across the city, news stations were already picking it up. "What you're about to see is shocking. A federal judge detained in public. Questions of racial profiling." The words spread fast, faster than Halvorson could drive. When he walked into the station, every eye turned. No one said a word. They didn't need to. He walked straight to the captain's office. Knocked once. "Enter." Captain Vorn didn't offer a seat. Didn't offer a greeting. He simply turned his screen around. The video played again. "You want to explain this?" Vorn asked. Halvorson stood still. Suspicious individual. Refused to. "Stop." Vorn cut in. The room went silent. "That is a federal judge," Vorn said slowly, "in full robes, calm, cooperative. And you put him in cuffs." Halvorson's jaw tightened. "I followed procedure." Vorn leaned forward slightly. "No," he said, "you ignored judgment." That hit harder. Halvorson looked away for a moment. Just a second. But it was enough. Vorn continued. "Do you understand what this looks like?" Halvorson didn't answer. "Let me make it simple," Vorn said. "It looks like bias." The word landed heavy. Halvorson's eyes snapped back. "That's not," It is, Vaughan said firmly, and the whole country is watching it right now. Silence again. Then, you are suspended, effective immediately. Halvorsen blinked once, as if he hadn't expected it to move this fast. Turn in your badge and weapon. The words were final. No argument. No delay. Halvorsen slowly reached to his belt, unclipped the badge, placed it on the desk. Then the weapon. Set it down carefully. The sound of metal touching wood echoed louder than expected. And just like that, it was gone. Outside, officers whispered. Phones kept buzzing. The video kept spreading. But something else was building too. Public reaction, anger, questions, demands. And at the center of it all, Judge Emanuel Rowe, a man who had been quiet, calm, respectful. But now something had changed. Because what happened to him was no longer just about him. It was about a system, a pattern, a truth that people could no longer ignore. And as night fell over the city, one thing became clear. This story was not slowing down. It was only getting bigger. And what came next would hit even harder. By morning, the story was everywhere. Television screens showed the same frozen moment on repeat. Judge Emanuel Rowe standing in a robe, hands restrained, while Officer Grant Halvorsen called it a costume. The clip had been slowed, zoomed, analyzed, and broken apart by millions of viewers who could not believe what they were seeing. News anchors stopped using soft language. They called it what it was now: a public failure, a racial profiling incident, a misuse of power. And pressure was building fast. Inside the federal courthouse, Judge Rowe arrived earlier than usual. The building was already tense. Staff members spoke in low voices. Security guards watched every movement more closely than normal. Everyone understood. This was no longer just a local matter. This was national. Rowe walked straight to his office, but before he could sit down, two senior officials were already waiting. One of them spoke first. "Your Honor, the department wants a full statement." Rowe nodded once. "They will get it." The second official hesitated. "There's more. The public is demanding accountability. The officer involved has been suspended, but people are asking for charges." Rowe didn't react immediately. He just sat down slowly. Then he spoke. "I don't want revenge." The room went quiet. He continued, voice steady. "I want truth, and I want this handled properly." Meanwhile, across town, Halvorsen sat in a small office room at Internal Affairs. No badge, no weapon, no radio, just a table and a chair. The walls felt closer than usual. Officer Lyle Benton was also there, waiting separately. He had already given his statement. It wasn't kind to Halvorsen. Not because he hated him, but because he couldn't deny what he saw. Halvorsen stared at the table while an investigator read from a file. "You detained a federal judge without confirming identity," the investigator said. "You ignored multiple warnings from fellow officers. You proceeded after ID was presented. Correct." Halvorsen's voice was quiet. "I was cautious." The investigator didn't respond immediately, just looked at him. Then said, "Cautious doesn't explain the comments." A pause. Then the file was turned. Printed lines of his radio words. "Possible impersonation. Doesn't look right. And you people." The last line sat there. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Halvorsen's jaw tightened. "I didn't mean it like that," he said. But even as he said it, he knew it didn't matter anymore. Because intent didn't erase impact. Outside the building, reporters were already gathering again. Cameras pointed at every entrance, every exit, waiting for someone, anyone, to speak. And then it happened. Judge Rowe appeared. No robe this time, just a dark suit. Simple, clean, Controlled. He stepped in front of the microphones without hesitation. The noise around him faded as the cameras focused.